As of now, over two tables are being created of table 1 and table 2. So now it's time to move toward identifying and deleting the null and the duplicate values. As you can see, the over table 1 and table 2 in their schema and also in the preview tab, you just have to click on the table 1, table 2, and this tab of the schema detail and preview is being seen over there, and you can select the preview tab where you can see the table form of it. Now in my QD pan, I'm just commenting it to be as a identifying and deleting null and duplicate values. So I'm using select statement, and then from my project name, which is HR employee analysis, then I'm using the dot sign, and then my dataset name, which is data, and then table name, and I'm unclosing it into the sign of which is similar to semicolon, which is similar to this. I don't know what exactly is named to be. Now in my table 1, I'm selecting all of my columns name by using the same shortcut as I described previously, that you can click on the table 1 and then the schema tab is being opened. You can click all of the column name in your table and then select it here, and I'm just copying it and removing this tab. So now my query over here, I am pasting it, and I'm using in my select statement selecting all of the data. So for identifying of the null values in my where statement, we have to see the null values in each of the columns. So firstly, I'm seeing my null values in the employee ID, and in where statement I use is null or employee name is null. So by using this method, what it can do is that it can select the null values is either be lying into any one of the columns, so it can give us as the result. But as you can see, it's taking a lot of time. So what I'm doing is asking ChatGPT that you can create this, transform this query into better form, just because it's for saving of the time, because half the query is being created and you just have to replace the is null value or values in this query. So I'm giving a prompt to be a ChatGPT. So now you can see here it can give us the complete code, because we already defined half of code, the main stuff is being done, but have to be write it over for all of our column names. So now I'm just pasting it, and when we run this query, you can see the result. There's no data to space, mean that there is no null values in our table 1. So now it's time to identify the duplicate values in our table 1. So I'm using select statement, and I wanted to see based on employee ID. And then I wanted to see the count of all as total, count of all rows as total, and then from our table of table 1, and in the having statement what I wanted to see is that count of all values is greater than 1. So what it can do is that it can count the employee ID and all the rows. So if they are, I also have to be use the group by statement by employee ID. So what it can do that if the same employee ID is appearing more than once time, so it's considered to be as a duplicate value. Because as you can see here, we didn't have any kind of a duplicate value over there. So now it's time to see the null and the duplicate values in our table 2. there may be a question that comes into your mind that why do not you joining table 1 and table 2. So in table 1 we have almost 15k values, like 1500 values, and in our table 2 we have almost a 16,000 something. There's a different kind of values there. We did not join these table 1 table 2 because in table 1 we have employee data set, and in table 2 we have a different kind of performance and rating data set. So there are different kind of reviews at our different kind of a performance date. So there are much more higher number of rows in our table 2 column, and there are less number of rows in our table 1 column. That's why we did not join them. So now I'm selecting all of my column names by using the same shortcut that I describe you, and I'm just pasting it over here. So now you can see this. I wanted to ask ChatGPT to complete this query for me because it can save time. Now I'm just copying this code and pasting it on my SQL query, and when I select all of this query and then execute it, so you can see over here in the performance ID we have so we have to select all of this from table 2. So there's a little bit error in our form statement. So now you can see we didn't have any kind of a null values in our table 2. So it's time to select to see the duplicate values in our table 2 column. All of the columns are table 2. So I'm using the same query that I used for table 2. So instead of table 2 I'm replacing table 1, I'm replacing it with the table 2. So now you can see there are some of the values that are being replaced, like there are almost 1100 values that are being replaced. But what is that we have in our table 2, we have to identify the duplicate value based on the performance ID rather than to be employee ID, because the same employee has a multiple performance rating, like multiple performance reviews. So we have to identify our duplicate value based on the performance ID instead of an employee ID, because same employee has a multiple performance reviews. So that's why I'm using performance ID. So now when we select over this query, and you can see over here there is no data display, like there is no duplicate values in our table 2.